high harmony seekers. Today, we're going to deep diving into the art of mindful communication in relationships. Whether you're just starting a new relationship or enjoying the beautiful journey of a long-standing bond, or somewhere in between, this space is here to offer you some nourishment. By the end of this conversation, you will be able to build a strong foundation of trust and respect in your relationship. Create a language of love that is truly yours, something that speaks to the beat of your hearts. You'll find new paths, new ways to bridge gaps, to create deep connections in your relationships. Imagine two rivers flowing right next to each other, but never really coming together. If these rivers happen to touch each other at certain points, they will still stay separate unless they actually merge together. It's interesting how in our relationships, we can often find ourselves just kind of going with the flow, but never really feeling that deep connection. Have you ever felt that way before? Have you ever had that feeling where someone you love deeply just doesn't seem to understand you? Don't worry. You're definitely not alone in feeling that way. Let's dive into the beautiful art of mindful communication in relationships. It's like watching two rivers come together, merging into one. You know what's really cool? It's when we're surrounded by silence. It's like we can really tap into a whole new level of understanding. It's pretty amazing, don't you think? Let's dive into the world of mindful communication and start with the art of active listening. It's a skill that truly taps into the heart of human connection. I know this young couple, Liam and Clara, and let me tell you, they seem to have everything going for them. But inside their home, they started to grow apart. Clara would often say, "Whenever I speak, it feels like I'm just talking to a wall." It was so heart-wrenching to feel so desolate. But you know what? Destiny had a little twist in store. One day, I could sense their pain through our conversations, so I introduced them to this cool game called the silent game. The rules were pretty straightforward. One person would do the talking, and the other person would just listen. Just listen only, without giving advice or arguing. Just be there to listen, no strings attached. At first, the couple wasn't sure what to expect, but they were completely surprised by how profound this experience turned out to be. In about 2 weeks' time, they came and thanked me for telling them about the game. Clara was like, "You see that wall? Wow, it transformed. It felt like Liam went out of his way to build a bridge specifically for me." I said, "Don't thank me. Thanks yourself for practicing active listening." Active listening is like gently cradling a fragile, delicate bird in your hands. If you don't hold onto the bird tightly enough, it might slip away and fly off. But if you hold onto it too tightly, you might end up hurting it. The key is to find the right balance to truly grasp its essence without forcing our own perspective onto it. Sometimes we get so caught up in expressing ourselves that we forget the importance of truly listening to others. When we actively listen, it's not just about hearing the words someone says. It's about truly understanding and connecting with what they're trying to communicate. It's like diving deep into someone else's emotions, experiences, and perspectives. This is usually where a lot of us struggle. Sometimes our minds tend to wander. We start thinking about how to respond to something, or we get caught up in crafting arguments in our heads, or we simply drift away into our own thoughts. It happens to all of us. This practice of active listening encourages us to listen with an open heart, without any intention of immediately responding. It's all about being in the moment, really taking it all in and truly getting it. Listening like that really helps us grow and develop. It really heals. When you really listen to someone, it creates a deep connection. It's like a connection that goes beyond just words or gestures. It's all about the connection of souls. You might be wondering, how can we develop this kind of listening? Just be patient, as every amazing journey starts with taking that first step. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. Can you think of a time when someone really listened to you? How did that make you feel? Think about it, because those feelings are what we're going to explore next. I just want to remind you to appreciate those moments of silence during your conversations. Sometimes the quiet moments can speak the loudest. Have you ever experienced the incredible impact of a word left unsaid? In the orchestra of our lives, those moments of silence can actually hold melodies that are even more profound than any tune. We're going to explore the fascinating world of nonverbal communication, the art of expressing ourselves without using words. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Amara and Neha, they were childhood friends from this cute little town. People were always so jealous of their bond. They were able to have a conversation even when there was complete silence in the room. They were all laughing at the same moments, pausing at the same junctions, and even crying in harmony. One day, Neha ended up moving to a busy city. After a few years, when she got back, they decided to meet up at their favorite coffee shop. The words were few, but the emotions were intense. Their conversations were so rich. It's like a lift of an eyebrow, a subtle shift in posture, or a gentle touch could say it all without even using words. After thinking about it, Amara had a realization. It wasn't just about what we said, but also about how we felt and expressed ourselves. Just image our bodies as musical instruments. Every little movement we make creates its own special note. Pretty cool, right? Sometimes it's not just the lyrics that speak to us, but the melody itself. It's like the way we move and carry ourselves can express our deepest emotions. It's amazing how a gentle pluck of a guitar string can really bring out some deep emotions. And you know what? The same goes for a simple nod or a warm hug. It's pretty incredible, isn't it? The story of Amara and Neha is something that resonates with a lot of us. Words are powerful, but you know what's even more expressive? It's our body language. It's like a silent symphony of gestures that can really bring a situation to life. Especially in relationships, this becomes really important. Sometimes, a simple reassuring hand on your shoulder can say more than 1,000 words of comfort. Sometimes, when someone avoids making eye contact, it could mean that they're feeling uncomfortable or hesitant to express themselves fully. Our bodies have their own way of communicating. They can express love, discomfort, happiness, or anxiety without using words. Pretty amazing, don't you think? But how often do we actually pay attention? In our everyday lives, with all the hustle and bustle, we often overlook these small hints. But you know, being mindful of how we act and picking up on those subtle cues can really make a difference in our relationships. It's like a kind of magic. It's like a bridge that connects people, clears up any uncertainties, and brings about a beautiful connection between souls, even when words might not be enough. So, how can we tune into this symphony of gestures? Have you ever wondered how we can listen with our eyes and speak with our touch? It's quite fascinating, isn't it? Have you ever had that experience where you feel a strong connection with someone, even though you haven't said much to each other? Just take a moment to think about it. What were the nonverbal cues that made you feel so understood and connected? I just wanted to let you know that if you mindfully pay attention to the subtle messages happening all around you, you could dance to the rhythm of gestures and really embrace those moments of silence that say so much. In these quiet moments, our hearts often speak to each other so loudly and clearly. Haven't we all been guilty of assuming our loved ones know exactly what we want? But let's be real. How many times have we been proven wrong? Let's talk about the courage it takes to be vulnerable and how expressing our needs clearly can be a sign of strength. There was this really charming town where Robert, the sweetest husband ever, lived. He would always give his wife, Lena, a bouquet of roses on their anniversary every year. He thought it was the ultimate expression of love, and she happily accepted them with a smile. But then one day, while they were walking through a meadow, Lena suddenly got really excited when she saw some wild daisies. "Wow, Robert, It was such a beautiful moment when he saw how genuinely happy she was. It made him realize that daisies were actually her absolute favorite flower. He suddenly felt a twinge of regret and thought to himself, wow, all this time I've been giving her roses, but it turns out she actually prefers daisies. I wish she had just told me what she wanted. But he also knew that it was like a dance where both parties made assumptions without saying a word. Our needs are as a room covered in darkness. You know, it's like when we ask for what we really need. It's like flipping on a light switch in that room. All of a sudden, the space that was once hidden becomes bright, showing us all its amazing things and potential dangers. If we don't turn on the light, we and everyone else will be left stumbling around in the dark. Sometimes we have this expectation that our partners should be able to read our minds and understand things without us having to tell them. But as you know, when we make assumptions like that, it often ends up causing disappointment because our expectations aren't met. It takes a lot of courage to express our needs because it means showing our vulnerabilities. But you know what? Vulnerability actually helps bring people closer together and helps them understand each other better. Being mindful means being consciously aware of our feelings and desires and having the courage to express them. Do you know that meditation can really help you on this journey? When we take a moment to sit quietly and reflect on our thoughts, we can begin to distinguish between our genuine needs and passing desires. This clarity helps us express ourselves accurately, so there's no confusion about what we're asking for. Okay. Hey, I wanted to ask you something that might make you think. Can you remember the last time you felt like your partner didn't really listen to you or didn't understand where you were coming from in your relationship? Do you think it might be because you haven't been clear about what you need? Expressing yourself is all about being free. Let's focus on being mindful of our true needs and having the courage to express them. Let's light up the rooms in our hearts so our loved ones can really see and understand us. And when we give someone a rose, it's a beautiful way to show our love. But you know what's even better? Finding true joy when we both understand and express ourselves. The world of mindful communication is like a beautiful tapestry full of intricate threads. Each thread we uncover reveals a whole new level of depth and understanding. Have you ever noticed how frequently we get caught up in this never-ending cycle of blame in our lives? It's like we're constantly pointing fingers at each other, at our partner, right? Let's explore the pitfalls of playing the blame game and discover the freedom that comes when we move past it. It's Amanda, my sister, and her husband, Anthony. They kept arguing about one small thing: leaving the lights on. Anthony always forgets to turn off the lights, and it's starting to really annoy Amanda. I could remember one evening, and we're all gathered around the dinner table to have a family dinner together. The chandelier above is casting a soft, dim light. Everyone is chatting and eating and joking around. But here's the thing: you could practically cut the tension in the room with a knife at that point in time. While the joking around with everyone, Anthony said she always blaming me for leaving the lights on, pointing to Amanda. Amanda let out a sigh and replied to Anthony, "Anthony, it's not only about the lights." He seemed confused. It was just a joke, he thought. Amanda goes on saying to Anthony that you don't seem to appreciate our shared space and resources. Anthony, feeling trapped without thinking, snapped back, "You're always so quick to point the finger at me. What about those times when you forget to turn off the heater?" The argument got worse, but it seemed like there were deeper feelings of not feeling appreciated or listened to. Blame is kind of like a big rock that we just toss around without realizing that we're living in fragile glass houses ourselves. Every time we throw something, it not only disturbs the peace of the other person, but it also affects our own serenity, little by little. Amanda and Anthony's story is actually pretty common. Have you ever noticed how often we end up playing the blame game, even in the most trivial situations? But what's really going on behind all this blame? Maybe it's an emotion that hasn't been expressed, a feeling that's been kept hidden, or an intention that's been misunderstood. Blaming is something we often do when we struggle to face our emotions, when we find it difficult to sit with them and truly understand them. In the Zen tradition, we often talk about the beauty of non-judgment. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? This principle isn't just about other people, but it's also about not judging our own feelings and reactions. It's all about watching without getting caught up in it. When we embrace non-judgment, we shift from reacting to responding. Have you ever wondered why you have such a strong reaction when your partner says or does something? Yeah, doing some deep thinking like that can really make you realize some important stuff. Can you think of a time when you were quick to blame someone? Just imagine, what if you went into that situation without any judgment in your heart? How do you think things would have turned out differently in that scenario? Blaming others is usually the easy way to go when we're feeling frustrated and need to let off some steam. But you know what? As we've been going through our day, we've come to realize that taking the more difficult path of not judging others not only helps our relationships, but also makes us feel better on the inside. From now onwards, let's make a little promise to ourselves, okay? Let's remember to take a moment before blaming someone, to take a deep breath before judging someone, and to prioritize understanding instead of placing blame. Sound good? You know, in relationships, it's usually the things we don't say that really matter. As we journey through the beautiful dance of partnership, let's strive to be mindful dancers, gracefully stepping with understanding and always aiming for harmony. I have divided this conversation about the art of mindful communication in relationships into 3 parts. This is part 1, and we have come to the end of part 1. Let's keep this conversation going and explore the essence of genuine connection. In part 2, we'll be diving into the secrets of building strong connections that are based on understanding, respect, and empathy. This is where communication truly shines, creating a safe space for mutual respect and personal growth. I'm really looking forward to see you in part 2.